All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us here as we're getting this webinar fired up for you today. We are excited about sharing with you Google Business Profile best practices. Our goal here is to give you a master class on how to leverage Google Business Profile to attract more customers. My name is Jimmy Mackin, CEO of Curator. Today, I am joined by our resident SEO expert, Ryan, who's going to be, I'll do an intro here in just a moment about. And we are going to take this next 30 to 45 minutes to give you all the information you need to be successful when optimizing your Google Business Profile. But before we do, I want to just zoom the lens out here for 1 second and talk about what we're seeing in the market and what we're learning from top agents who are out there trying to balance and navigate this shift. What's interesting is, there's an expression, Ryan, that in a bull market, everyone's a genius. Well, now as a tide is sort of pulling back a bit, we're starting to realize that agents who were successful over the last 24 months are agents who worked hard, who were in the right place at the right time, who showed up and did their job, and business was effectively kind of coming to them because demand was so high. So if you were set up to succeed, if you worked really hard, if you took care of your customers, you probably did pretty well in the last 24 months. But now as the market is shifting, we're seeing agents making big investments in advertising and marketing, but we're also seeing a lot of agents pull back. And what you're realizing is that you can't just work hard. You got to work smart. You got to have the right strategies, the right tactics if you are going to thrive in today's market. And if your business is starting to decline because the market is declining, then there's a fundamental problem with the plan. And our goal here on today's webinar is to help solve that one basic problem. Google Business Profile is not going to take you from doing $10 million in production to $100 million in production, but it can be a cornerstone part of your strategy that helps you attract new business, helps you actually bring in new customers on the buy side and on the sell side. So without further ado, Ryan, I'd love for you to kick things off and just introduce yourself, give the group here. We got a great group here. By the way, if you're just joining right now in the chat, let us know where you're calling in from. Just drop your location, what brokerage, what agency you're with. We'd love to get a sense of who's on today's call. But Ryan, I think it'd be a great place for us to start to give everyone on the call a bit of background about yourself and your experience, my friend.
Yeah, of course. As always, awesome to be on the call with you and everybody else here. So I've been in SEO now for quite some time, coming up to a decade. Even though I don't look that old, I definitely am. So I've been in SEO for close to 10 years, and throughout my kind of career, I've worked in every facet of SEO you can imagine, from local to national. And I've worked with a range of budgets, from, again, local to people spending 6-7 figures a year on their search campaign. So I predominantly specialize in organic growth, and kind of growth hacking, the term has kind of evolved into. And I've worked with some phenomenal brands. I've been very lucky in that regard to work with some of the biggest brands over here and also in the US. And hopefully today I can give everybody some takeaway points to implement straight away with their GMB or GBP profile to help them see more leads in their local area.
Yeah, I love it. And I think the really interesting thing that is worth mentioning here, when we think about the Google Business Profile, one of the really interesting things about using Google as one of your core strategies is the type of leads that you get. Now, I believe that if you look at the industry as a whole, I believe every investment that you make in your brand is one of the best investments you can make. Now, you have kind of two different types of agents, Ryan, in this space. You have agents who sort of outsource everything to some of these referral platforms like a Zillow Flex. And whereas you get revenue from that, and it's fantastic revenue for most customers who are part of Zillow Flex, the problem is that you sometimes can rob yourself of building the muscles you really need to become self-sufficient. So I am always a fan of sort of this direct to consumer business, or this direct to consumer model. And Google Business Profile certainly falls in that category. In fact, if you think about the sort of strategy as a whole, and again, thinking about the future here, all of the value is in customer acquisition. There's a great quote by Pernadette Jiwa who says, "Whoever gets closest to the customer wins." And so our ability to get you in front of customers when they're looking for people like you is how we win. So Ryan, talk about what we're going to be covering in today's session.
Yeah, so I mean, the aim is to basically give you absolutely everything that you'll need to know to build a solid Google Business Profile presence. So we're going to talk about the kind of core foundations of how local SEO works.
Yep.
Run through some of the basics, which kind of make up 70, 80% of what people need to do. And then I'm going to kind of go through some of the deeper stuff, some of the things that potentially might not be front of mind and things that I picked up over the last, again, nearly decade.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to show it in practice, show it in action, and kind of give you an insight into what it can do for your business.
Yeah, this is what the SEO experts call the secret sauce, right, Ryan?
Exactly.
The little optimization tactics that actually make all the difference. And that's actually one of the things about this is that there are little things that are frankly, even for me as a professional marketer, not obvious that can actually have a really big impact. So we'll cover that towards the end of today's call. So Ryan, I know we want to kind of help people get a sense of the scope of how Google can impact their business. So I'd love for you to talk through some of the data that we have here. But before we do that, what do you want people to do right now on their phones?
It would be a really interesting case study right now if everybody just search for their broker name from where they are currently sat. And then once you've got it, just type in the position where you see yourselves in the map. So at the top of Google.
Yeah, I'm going to do this right now. So you want people to go on their mobile phone. You want them to pull up. Doesn't make a difference using Safari or Chrome. Pull up, search for the phrase real estate agent, and you want them to say, where are they on the map? Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
So in the chat right now for us, pull up your phones and then go ahead and search on Google, real estate agent. I'm assuming we're allowing location. And then as you scroll down like a little bit, you'll basically have a section where the maps are. And these are the organic results before the after the advertisements. And right now on my phone, it may be different for others. I have 3 results. So are you showing up in any of the top 3 results? All right. Sunday's saying, I think that's a 1. There you go. Jeremy, number 2. There you go, Jeremy. Yeah. Mary's number 1. Yeah. What's up, Brooks? Number 1. Yeah. I love that. 3, 4. Yeah. If you're on 4, Brian, you're hitting that load more button, right? More business button. No. It's the old expression. If you're on page, where's the best place to hide a dead body? On page 2 of Google. It's sort of like, where's the best place to hide, business? After that, more business button. Yeah. Chad's at 8. Becky's at 1. Yeah. So for those of you who are in that number 1 position, Justin 6, you're going to love today's class because, you want to make sure you have a moat around that. You want to be able to establish the business because there's other people in your area who are going to be climbing for that first spot. Very cool. Yeah. And then Ardo saying, yeah, I'm not showing up in the top 3. Cool. All right. So Ryan, give us a sense of what this, we all know Google is effectively the number 1 search engine in the world. They account for 90% of all search traffic. But I think it is important to kind of maybe drill down at a local level to give people some perspective on how big and dominant Google really is.
Yeah, I mean, the sheer scale of Google is unimaginable, especially when you compare it to the likes of Bing, Yahoo, or pretty much any other search engine.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that search on their phones for local businesses is absolutely astounding. So like the stats we show here, so 95% of all mobile searches are captured by Google. 84% of searches are discovery searches. So that means people who aren't looking for a particular brand, but they're looking for a thing or a service that they're yet to know. And then 46%, so nearly half of all searches are people looking for local information. So that in itself, nearly half of all searches are people looking for local businesses, should be a standout point to say, actually, we need to be paying attention to this.
Yeah. And I think when someone is searching for the word real estate agent, they also don't already have a pre-existing relationship. And that maybe if you wanted to just double click on that for a second for us here, that's the distinction typically between a Google Business Profile prospect and someone who might come in through a traditional mean of forced registration. They see a Google ad about homes for sale, they click on it, they view a few homes, they get the annoying pop-up, they fill their information out. There could be already a pre-existing relationship in place, and there is essentially not a whole lot of intent behind that as it relates to working with an agent. They're looking for houses, and of course they could be looking to buy a house and they may need a real estate agent. But in this case, when someone's searching for a real estate agent, they're clearly looking for this service. And so when you say 46% of people are looking for local information, does that mean that Google is now starting to optimize for that? Are they starting trying to serve more local content when people are searching on their mobile phones?
Yeah. So in the context of local, being able to be, and we'll cover this in a little bit, but to be able to be considered relevant or close enough to that search to be considered a approachable business or a suitable business for that searcher makes a ton of sense. You see it with the ads that they serve. You see it with the maps that they are styling out and testing new features on. Ultimately, what Google's aim is as a search engine, if we kind of go all the way zoomed out, is to connect people with the right businesses. So when you look at it through that lens, to be able to build your profile around that concept is what's going to make all of the difference. And like you said, the intent of that searcher is very much going to be, I'm looking for a service or a product, and I just don't know where it is yet.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. So Ryan, for the sake of time here, I want to just dive into understanding how Google thinks about local ranking, because we mentioned the word local a couple times here. And so you've broken this down in sort of 3 key buckets. So unpack this for us.
Yeah, sure. I'll keep it super short and sweet. So as an SEO, we are given, very vague guidelines from Google to say, this is how we want businesses to build their profile, build their websites to make it easier for us as a search engine. But they never really give you, really clear instruction on how to take that. So with the relevancy, the distance, and the prominence, these are Google's kind of black and white, very vanilla guidelines.
Yeah.
But when you unpack that and you dive into what that actually means, it goes from being, how do we do this, to now I can see, read between the lines, what Google is actually telling me what to do. And on the next couple of slides, I'll basically dig into what my perception is over the last 10 years of how it works. So you can take away a very simple explanation of what each is.
Yeah. So let's unpack each one of these here, starting with relevance, right? Because we have sort of 3 buckets: relevance. I'll go back here for 1 second per slide. Relevance, distance, and prominence. So let's start with relevance. What does Google mean by when they say the word relevance?
So relevancy comes down to, are you a business that matches the 2 things, the intent of that user and what the user has searched for? So if it's real estate agent in X, are you a business that can service that query?
Okay.
And the way that you build that relevancy up is really easy at the kind of face value. So build up your local content, which is a huge, huge factor. Your on-site SEO, which is again just the core basics. So think about what your content is, your page titles, speed, design, that kind of thing. And then business citation. So where is your business listed in your local area to help Google understand, okay, these are a real estate agent or they're a broker.
Why do business citations matter when you think about you, meaning that, you can't, so what I'm hearing you say is you can't just live in your own silo. You've got to get, other citations from other business, other sort of directories. Like what is the logic behind that?
So the web is built on links. So the way that Google finds other websites is to crawl popular, in our case, directories, and find these links. So if you imagine, Google regularly, probably millions of times a day, as an example, will crawl Facebook. And if you've got your business information on Facebook, Google can find that information and understand what you do. And if you imagine that by 100 different sites, Google will very quickly pick up what you are, where you're based.
And I think that's probably an important point here, which is when you think about, and I want to come back to local content in a second, but when we talk about business citations, you're basically saying there are certain directories that you should have your businesses listed on. And if your business isn't listed consistently there, then there's gonna be a problem. Is there a tool or a resource that you can think of when it comes to choosing what the directories you would want to make sure your content is actually, or your business is actually being referenced from?
Yeah, the biggest tool that we kind of use day to day is Bright Local. They will help you understand where your business is listed and how many of them are missing and how many of them are inconsistent.
And so this tool, I'm sorry, it was called Bright Local.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So domain, just Google Bright Local. I'm sure they will show up. Hopefully, if they're an SEO company in the top results. Otherwise,
Exactly.
they got bigger problems. Let me just, before we go on to distance here, I want to talk about local content for just one moment. When I think about the future of marketing, Curaytor, we are focused on working with the top agents across the country. We were looking at some data earlier today. Our clients, we work with 550 clients right now, Ryan. Our clients right now have over $2.1 billion in active listings right now in their sort of businesses, which if Curaytor was a brokerage, we would be close to the top 10 brokerages in the country. We just work with such incredible agents who just do incredible work. And one of the things that we've been teaching our agents for quite some time now and really advocating for is you've got to create content that you can't find elsewhere online to give consumers a compelling reason to want to visit your website. And so whereas everybody has listings and you need to have listings as table stakes, you have to be thinking about ways to create content that is effectively something that adds value to the consumer, something that actually demonstrates the area really well, something that kind of gives them that insider market information. And oh, by the way, it's the one thing that you can do better than anybody else that you can't be undermined by some of the national portals. So you're saying, what I'm hearing you're saying this is that not only does local content benefit us from a marketing perspective, from an email perspective, from a social media perspective, you're saying actually there are even bigger factors here, which by producing local content on your website that's consistent with your brand, Google's actually picking up on that, and that could actually impact your Google Business Profile rankings.
Yeah, I couldn't have explained it better. The long and short of it is, like you said, is if you speak the local language and you can prove that you're an authority in your local area, not only will your users pick up on that, but Google will also pick up on that.
Cool. All right. So distance. So relevance number one. I'm going to keep recapping here because this is a lot of kind of new information for people. Local content, on-site SEO, business citations. Relevance being a key factor in determining whether or not you show up on those 1, 2, or 3, or if I got to click that more businesses button, which no one does. All right. Let's talk about distance. How does distance impact someone's rankings?
This is a really good one because I guess the question we asked at the very start is, tell us where you rank based on where you're currently searching from. If you search from within your business and you turned up position 1, that's because you're within 5 feet of where Google thinks that business is. So to step back and say, okay, so if somebody is searching for me from 15, 20 miles away and they want to come and visit this area or look for a property in this area, how popular or how prominent is my business profile then? And the way that you can build that is, again, you kind of stay in with the theme of can Google go to other sources on the web and validate your business address, validate where your phone number is, your website, and that, is it consistent? Have you changed address? Have you changed offices recently in the last 6 to 12 months and forgotten to update where your office is based? And if you only focus on a 200, for example, or 200 meter radius, like you're not going to be generating a lot of leads, a lot of calls. You need to look at it as are people looking from 2 miles, 5 miles to get into this area? Yeah. And how do I rank at that level?
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you're touching on, and I was going to ask you to do, I was going to ask you to translate meters into miles here for us, or meters into feet for our audience. The one thing that's coming to my mind here as you're talking through this, though, is how local is real estate, and why, a lot of people who try to disrupt our industry don't realize that we are fractured on purpose. It's by design. And when we interview sellers and buyers, the location of an office and how well someone knows an area plays such a huge role in whether or not they decide to hire an agent. You might be a fantastic agent, but if in their mind they make this association, well, this is a great agent in Bedford, but I'm buying a house in Auburn, consumers can't make that connection. It's like, I want, it's fast food or fine dining. You don't compare the two. You compare fine dining to fine dining. So that location being a big factor here and making sure that you're optimizing around your actual address makes a ton of sense. And just for context, NAP consistency means what?
So NAP stands for name, address, phone number. And it basically means wherever those three things are listed, are they the same? If they're not the same, despite Google being the giant that it is, can still get things wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Okay, prominence. Let's talk about this, because this to me feels like the other two were pretty straightforward and pretty basic, right? Relevance and distance, and now we talk about prominence. So let's dive into prominence. What does Google mean when they say prominence, and then what are the factors that go into that?
Yeah, so prominence is by far, I would say, 80% of what would get you a stronger position than what you have now. Yep. So if you imagine, treat it as anything else, like in a real life business, if you've just opened up a store or you've opened up a business and you expect footfall to come into this business, it might look like a really good, popular brand to other people that pass by. And that is exactly what Google is doing. It's saying, how much traffic is this website getting? How many people are engaging with the profile? And these are all popularity signals. So we treat prominence as popularity. So reviews, photographs, posting of content, that kind of thing, that all makes a huge, huge difference. And the reason why this plays such a massive part is because this is the hardest thing to do consistently. People will do this for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks and see no results and give up. But if you wait 2, 3 months, especially in high competition areas where you're going up against legacy brands that have already done all of this stuff, so looking for links from other websites or directories and paying attention to how they can get featured in the news, you're playing catch up. But overlooking this stuff is where you're going to fall short. So in my mind, popularity is by far the most important element of local SEO.
We have links in PR, which I'm actually really curious in the chat. Do you have a PR strategy? Is that part of your marketing plan? I think people are gonna be like, well, I've already got 50 things to do every single day, Jimmy. So no, they may say that. But it's interesting because I think when we think about marketing, we all have a content marketing plan, an email plan. We're thinking about what videos we want to produce. I'm really curious if there is if those of you on today's call have a PR plan. So links and PR, citations. Let's just double click on, as people are answering that question. Let's double click on reviews. I want you to maybe unpack the difference between a good review, a bad review, and how reviews play a role in prominence.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like anything else. I am definitely one of those people that relies on other people's opinion or referrals before I purchase something or I go and visit a restaurant of some sort, right? And it's the same thing. So if somebody leaves a review after working with you, and let's just say for argument's sake, it's a really positive review. And that positive review had a fantastic experience with X, would recommend, right? That at face value looks great. But there are a difference between that kind of review and taking it to another level, which will help you not only convert more leads, but it would also help Google understand how great you are and where you're located. So if we take a review, for example, and we say, I worked with X from this agency in this area, and they sold my property for above market value, couldn't recommend them highly enough. If you're ever in this area, we recommend you go visit them. The thing that people don't pay attention to, because it's not really common knowledge, is the usage of location terms and actual keywords. If you are able to get that into a review, you will be killing it when it comes to ranking. Like if they compound over time, 5, 10, 15 of them, you'll 100% see a significant difference in how popular your profile is.
Okay, so let's get really specific here for a second. I live in Auburn, New Hampshire, and I am a real estate agent who primarily services this area. are you encouraging me to basically say, when I'm working with someone who's buying a house or selling a house, I want them to mention what keywords, like Auburn? I want them to mention the type of properties. You want me to mention the price, like what, my name, like what are give me the magic wand. Imagine I could basically get this from every customer every time. I can get them to mention these kind of keywords. What are those sort of keywords you would want them to be including?
So the staple keyword by far would be real estate agent or real estate team. So
Okay.
those are within every review, try and get those in.
Yep.
Next to that would be the location where you sold the property.
Yeah.
So if it's in the area of your office, great. If it's not, you
Yeah.
can use that to influence how you rank in those areas. So we've got
Yeah.
real estate, the location, and then you've got to think about things like the words professional or market value, or like you said, the house price. The reason why you do that is because Google treats it as a topic. If you, fulfill that topic, it's an incredibly positive signal.
Yeah. Ellie was asking, hey, Ellie, good to see you. Ellie was asking in the chat, location by actual address, neighborhood, city, town, like, all the above. Obviously we're asking someone to write a review, so we don't want to overwhelm them with too many things to kind of include. But when you think about location, are we just trying to say the location in which we're trying to rank for? Is that a good sort of framework to think about it as?
Yep. I would avoid going too broad. So I would say the neighborhood or the area would be sufficient enough.
Okay. So as opposed to this, I'm really happy I hired Jimmy Mackin as my real estate agent. He helped me buy a house in New Hampshire. That is too broad. I'm really happy I hired Jimmy as a real estate agent. He helped me buy a home on Haven Drive. That is too narrow. So somewhere kind of between those two, based off of how people kind of search, is kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly. Yep.
Got it. Hopefully that's helpful, Ellie. So one quick comment. This is by Anna. This is a great question. If someone doesn't, you can reply to reviews. And by the way, really smart kind of pro tip here, Anna. I always read the replies from the brands. It's like I have this sense and feeling that this is a customer oriented or customer obsessed organization when I see them reply to reviews, good and bad, to be clear, right? Anna was saying, if they don't mention the location or like your name, location in the review, is there any value in your response to include those words, or is Google too smart to take that into consideration?
That's a brilliant question, and you're absolutely right. So if the review initially doesn't contain those keywords, you can flip that and say, all of the team here at X couldn't have been happier with the transaction and for you guys in this area. So yeah, brilliant question. And there is absolutely benefit in obviously keeping it natural, but responding in that fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Anna, we're going to get you on the next Google Business Profile Masterclass. Great addition. Okay, cool. So links and PR, citations, reviews, and last one here for prominence, because again, this accounts for 80% is what you're saying. Yep. Local traffic. You mean other publications, media outlets who are linking and driving traffic to your website? Is that how we should think about it?
Yep. So as much traffic you can get from the areas that you're trying to do business in, the better. If you can get it from, for example, you have a PR piece in your local news and people come from that site to yours, amazing. But even if you get people come through ads or from email clicks, or that they are directly searching for your brand, these all influence local traffic at some level.
Got it. Okay. Makes a ton of sense. So when we add all these things up, and bear with me here as I'm going through my slides, when we add all these things up, we're talking about relevance, right? Which is making sure you have detailed business information, local content, on-site SEO, business citations. Distance, making sure you're optimizing for in and around your actual location. And then prominence, which accounts for more than 80% of it, which is links and PR, citations, reviews, and local traffic. These are what you would call the basic building blocks that if you can get all of these things dialed in and you can focus on optimizing these things, then you are going to put yourself in a position where you are likely going to either maintain that number one position or start to increase your ranking. Now, I know we've got some additional pro tips here, but I want to take a step back because we do have people on the call today who do need a little bit of a refresher on the basics. So let's just talk through, Ryan, quickly around the key things around getting the basics right, sort of a good foundation to build on top of.
Yeah. So, I mean, what tends to happen, and there is a stat in this slide, which I forget off the top of my head, but what tends to happen is in local areas, people will set up a GMB profile at the start of their business and then forget about it. So they set it up, they don't verify that profile. And even if they do verify that profile, they'll just have kind of like the basic information, like here's a logo of my business and here are my opening hours, and here's my number to get hold of me.
Got it.
That is, I would say, 70% of what I see people do. They kind of set it up and leave it alone. So again, great question to ask is how many people here have a GMB and how many people have not yet verified it or claimed that GMB profile? If you haven't, I'm going to be really honest, and this is something you don't really hear in the industry that often, but I'm here to keep it 100 with you guys here. If you compete with people that have SEOs on board and you don't verify your profile, like over half of businesses don't do, you're you open up yourself to people that can claim this business on your behalf. So people can actually pretend that their business is based where your business is and take the lead from you.
Yeah. So the dark art of SEO. Yes, I get it.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And you're saying actually the data supports that more than 50% of businesses actually haven't claimed their GMB profile.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. So you've claimed the profile. And then let's talk about the consumers and just the contact details here. You got 64% of consumers use Google to find contact details for local business. So you're basically saying, we're seeing for these profiles, not only do they have to be claimed, but the information has to be accurate and up to date is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Yep. If you've moved a business address or you've updated your phone number to kind of track calls, make sure everything is reflected correctly, or you could be missing out on people trying to give you listings.
Yep. Got it. Okay. So we're going to keep it rolling because of time here, because I keep interrupting with my little quips here. But optimization is fast. I do want to spend time here because this does matter. We've got the distance, we've got the relevance, we've got the prominence dialed in. We've claimed our profile to protect ourselves from the SEO experts out there doing the black hat techniques. Now we're getting into the actual optimization. Now, there are some really basic things that make a big impact here. I want you to talk through just the basics here as we start to rapid fire through some of these ideas.
Yep, absolutely. So this is probably the first point. If I was to take anybody on as a client from a local standpoint, I would assess their business name. Yeah. And the reason why I do that is because, again, even though Google is a giant and they're very clever, it still relies on you feeding it exactly what it needs to know. And after countless thousands of data points, there is a very clear structure. So you either have your brand plus the keyword. So for example, Ryan Durrani, real estate agent, or you have brand plus your location and your keyword, depending on how high competition your area is. So Ryan Durrani, real estate agent, San Diego.
Yeah. Okay. And what's interesting to me is, and you like to look at how other brands, the top sort of 5, top 3, how they're structuring it. Do you use that data to inform your decision, or do you feel like this formula here is pretty consistent across all markets?
It is definitely very consistent. The thing I pay attention to, which normally can trigger some kind of negative response from Google, is if you go to overboard with the location. So brand plus keyword pretty much always works reasonably well. Yeah. But it's where you include the location. If it's not necessary and Google can just determine that based on, what's ranking already, then you don't need to add it. The thing that I'll say is, and I've highlighted this, is simply follow the successful structure of other businesses, because this is what Google wants. And they're telling you this by how they rank the businesses.
It's interesting to hear you say this, because for years in the industry, agents have really struggled as you build a team, like I got my guy Ken Pozak on today's call. And by the way, just a quick aside, if you're not following Ken Pozak on YouTube, you should absolutely stop what you're doing, make a note, write Ken Pozak's name down, and follow him on YouTube. The dude is putting out insanely good content on YouTube. He's got nearly 30,000 subscribers and generates a ton of business from it. So follow Ken Pozak on YouTube. One of the things I will say is I think a lot of teams struggle with this idea of the Ken Pozak team or the Pozak team. And what's interesting about this is having your name in the brand, which was usually or in the past thought of as a limiter, can actually in some cases be a value add, in the sense that people tend to associate the agent with the agent's name. So they may be looking for the Pozak team or Ken Pozak, and he's be more likely to be served up if they're searching for him, because his name, the thing they search, is also happens to be his brand name, which is the thing that Google's paying attention to. So it's just interesting. You know, I know a lot of agents struggle with this idea when they're a solo producer, they start to build a team. You know, agents don't like being under the team name. There are clear kind of benefits in just doubling down on your brand name and just owning that, because that's kind of how consumers think. All right, so your business name is number one. Talk about business categories. The first time you taught me this, Ryan, this is something that I really didn't understand, but obviously it's something that is you know, plays a big factor in the rankings.
Yeah, exactly. And everything that we say here in this optimization section is they all correlate to the three kind of core foundations that we spoke about. So when it comes to categories, Google uses this as a way to understand what your core business is and what other services you might offer. And the kind of really quick way to do this, not to overcomplicate it, is there's a free Chrome extension called GMB Everywhere. And what it will do is it will allow you to go to the Google Maps, and it will allow you to spy on your competitors' categories. So you can just reverse engineer what the top three maps are doing and replicate that. Obviously, if it makes sense for your business, if they have services that you don't offer, then don't include that. But the thing that people often get wrong here is they either do one of two things. They have no category set, or they have too many. So take a look at what's working, pay attention to how Google is looking at that, and all you have to do is just replicate it. Jimmy, you're muted.
I said this is a good example of the fast follower strategy. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Look at what categories the top brands are using and effectively replicate that. And you said the extension, the Chrome extension, is GMB Everywhere?
Correct. That's the one.
Okay. And they haven't updated it to GPB Everywhere yet? Is that accurate?
They definitely haven't. I think we still, as an SEO community, prefer GMB. So we're kind of like digging our heels in.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. A little inside SEO humor for those of you who are inside baseball. Okay. So we got, I'm going to come back here for a second. Business name, business categories, GMB Everywhere is the extension. Now we're on to business description. Break this down for us.
Yep. Again, so this is a really good way. And this is, again, thousands of profiles I've looked at. Most of the time they have a couple of sentences and they leave it at that. But this is your opportunity to tell a potential customer who you are, how long you've been in business, what areas you serve, and what services you offer. But it also means that Google can read these keywords, read your locations and areas, and build this picture up of who you are as a business. And one thing to pay attention to, just like we spoke about in the reviews, is the mention of streets, neighborhoods, and other keywords that relate to real estate as a topic. If you haven't filled these out, if you haven't taken advantage of the full amount of space, I definitely recommend you go and take a look at what your competitors are doing. And if they have done that and you haven't, then you need to catch up. But if they haven't done it and neither of you, then that's a win point for you. That's an advantage that you can take advantage of straight away.
One of the interesting things about this is when you're writing copy, I'm always a fan. If you think about the strategy here that Ryan's breaking down here, where you want to include, you got 750 words, use it. You want to include location, use it. You want to talk about the services that you offer, use it. But what I would say is write the copy as if you're writing it to a person first, and then go back and edit for SEO. Don't
Yep.
write for SEO first and then edit for like, like a natural language kind of approach. Like imagine someone reading this. And I think this is the power of great copywriting, is that great copywriting has the ability to pull people in, build this immediate connection with them. And if you can do that really well, you can come back. If I'm hearing you right, Ron, you can kind of come back and like, all right, you know what? Take that one line. Let's make sure we include location. But you're starting with the human being first, optimizing for them, and then making sure we don't leave Google behind here.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, that's what I do. It's really difficult for people to write like an SEO, and I'm an SEO myself, and I find it difficult. So write, like you said, write naturally, write for the user first. That is the most important thing by far. And then do just a quick sweep afterwards to see if you've included these keywords. And if you haven't, just fit them in naturally somewhere where it makes sense.
Yeah, love it. Cool. All right. So products and services. I'm going to keep going back here. Business name, business categories, business description, products and services. I didn't even know, before you taught me this, I didn't even know this was a thing that agents could use. So let's break this down, because I think most people on today's call don't actually use this.
Yeah. So the way that I would ask people to look at this is, if you treat this like another place to house your listings. It does two things. One, it shows that you're an active agent and you have a lot of inventory that people can engage with. And two, it shows Google which areas that you operate in more prominently than others.
Yeah.
So, for example, this is a really good example of Newman and Newman in San Diego. They've got the type of property that they have. They have a description of the type of property, and then they have a CTA of get offer, which takes people to basically a mirror page of what they've just seen.
Yeah.
So if we think about engagement, if people engage and click through to your website, that is an incredible signal to Google. And it also means that you're doing your job for your potential buyers or sellers.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. So products and services. So you might have, if you've got like a home guarantee program, if you're a Compass agent, you have Compass Concierge, you might do something like that. If you have a no listing agreement or 1-day listing agreement package, these are like, you can take the things you already do, like you have access to off-market listings. These are offers that are effectively products that you can, present to the consumer. Not only does it help you from the perspective of, getting someone to opt in, but also you're optimizing your Google business profile. All right. So then beyond that, posting regular content. We know this to be true with social media. We know this to be true with email marketing. We know this to be true with just content marketing, that regularity and consistency really does matter. So talk to us about, because this is something I think is probably, but most people on today's call have, I'm actually just curious in the chat right now. When is the last time you posted something to your Google business profile? Right. So in the chat right now, just drop, like, was it yesterday? Was it a week ago? Was it never? When is the last time you posted something to your Google business profile? So Ryan, as answers are pouring in right now, we got a few today, many moons ago. So that translates to quite some time. Never, 8 months ago. Somebody saying, hey, I just posted something right now. Kudos. Love the execution. Dustin saying March. It's August, Dustin, almost, right? It's been a while. Yeah, love it. Okay, cool. So posting regularly. Let's talk about how that impacts your ranking and what people should be doing there.
Yeah, exactly. So what you just said makes a ton of sense. If you treat your Google business profile like any other platform that your brand owns, activity makes all the difference. Like if I was to go to a Facebook profile and one agent is always engaged and always posting good content, and one is just not, I'm obviously going to lean towards the person that is more active. Yeah. And it's the same with Google. I'm going to keep it to GMB because GBP doesn't roll off the tongue so nice. Yeah. So it's the same with GMB content. The more active you are, I'm not saying to, stress about it or spam it every single day, but like if you can post once, twice, 3 times a week, that is really helpful, because all you need to do is reuse content you've got on your Facebook, reuse content you've got on your website, promote your listings. Like these are all good signals. because Google can read that content. So
Yeah.
if we go back to relevancy and proximity, the more listings you have in an area, Google can understand that. The more content you have about real estate, Google can understand that. So not only does it help you look active and engage people better, but it obviously helps Google understand who and where you are.
Yeah. And this is part of, at the end of today's call, we're going to talk about the service that we offer. This is part of the service that we offer, is actually posting regularly to your GMB profile or GPP, Google Business Profile. They changed the name recently, which is ridiculous. We're going to call it Google My Business Profile. We post regularly to your Google My Business Profile as a means to make sure that it is fresh, it is up to date with the most recent content or most recent listings. Okay, so we talk about photos and videos a lot as a means to promote listings. One of the ways that we promote listings at Curaytor is, we lean into using photos so people can kind of scroll through and engage. It actually helps with the algorithms. If you get more engagement, it drives down your cost per click. If you get more clicks for the money you're spending, you get more leads, more opportunities, which leads to more growth. But you use photos and videos as a means of helping improve your rankings locally. Talk about how photos and videos actually play a factor when it comes to, your rankings.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you've just said, it applies across the board. Everything in our world is algorithm based. So things like engagement, visuals, especially in certain industries, make a ton of sense to help Google, trust and validate your business. So in our case, the way that we can leverage photos and videos, firstly being, it's good content, people can engage with it, people can see what you have on offer. But the second part of that is that Google can actually read and understand what's behind these images. So if you want to rank in a certain area, so let's just say, for me, I want to rank in London, and I need to prove that to Google. Well, reviews are a great way of doing it. Posting content about that particular area is another great way of doing it as well. But proving that you've been there, either through one of your team or somebody who has, done a transaction with you, is kind of like the final piece to the puzzle. So we leverage things like the file name of the image when we upload it to our Google My Business. And we can also do something which is called geotagging. So if I was to take a picture right now on my phone, it would know my location. It would know my longitude and latitude. If I uploaded it to Google, it would know where I was. Same thing with the images. If you take a picture in London of a property that you've just sold, it will record that data once you upload it, and Google can read it. So it will know that you're selling properties in London. It will know that you're selling properties in, certain locations. And the more you can feed Google, the better.
Yeah. It makes a ton of sense. And I think the thing that's really interesting to me is if you start to add these things up, and I'll recap some of this in a moment, but when you start to add these things up, there's a great P.T. Barnum quote, which is, nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. And what we're really doing is we're creating all these sort of digital signals and touch points that are all pointing back to our brand to tell the world that, hey, we service this area. We take care of our clients. We can help people if you're looking for, an agent. And I think that just making it, like you said it earlier, like Google's one of the most sophisticated companies in the world, but don't make it hard for them. Because if you make it hard for them, it's unlikely it's going to result in actually driving performance. Last thing before we show some of the results we've gotten for clients, we talked about reviews extensively. Talk to me about how you think about reviews. So let's put aside the words that we want to use, the keywords. Is this something that, like, this, the frequency of the reviews, the number of reviews, obviously that impacts human behavior. Is that something that also impacts your rankings?
It does. Yep. So if you think about it in the light of, if Google come to your page or come to your GMB as a user, and it looked at a business in the same area as you with 65 reviews, and you've got 4, and the last one was 6 months ago, Google is obviously going to favor the more popular profile. So things like frequency make a big deal. Things like how you respond to the reviews make a big difference. And how the review is positioned. So like you can see here on the screenshot where it has positive, professionalism, quality, responsiveness, and value. And then you can also see, if you were to go into your maps right now, you'll see these words in little bubbles. And that's what Google determines to be really, really important. So back to what we said earlier, frequency, how you respond to them, the keywords you use all make a massive difference. And again, this is a really good stat. 90% of people will read at least one online review before making a decision to visit or contact a business. In the real estate world, and I've kind of learned a lot about it in the last 12 months, how high comp it is and how tough it is. Reviews can make all of the difference between somebody calling you and somebody else.
Yeah. And I want people in the chat to drop this in. How many agents does the typical seller interview before they hire the agent? Just in the chat, how many agents do you believe the average seller interviews before they make a decision? And we're seeing right now people drop in 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. It's 1, right? You got, it's 1. You got, what's the my buddy Phil M. Jones, co-author of the book that we wrote, Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents, likes to say, how much commission do you get when you come in second place? And the reality is that there's Google, you guys should all check this out. This is like this seminal piece that Google, this is off track, Ryan, I'm sorry, but this is a seminal piece that Google put out many years ago. My friend Matthew Shadbolt, who was the director of marketing, VP of marketing, something with marketing, Corcoran Group, when they were sort of up and coming, doing interesting things, he shared this with me. It's called the 0 moment of truth. And what it is it describes consumers' buying behaviors online. It's called 0 moment of truth. It's true today as true today as it was 10 years ago when it was written. And what's interesting is that you are already being interviewed before your interview, which is if they're looking, if you've gone on their radar, they're Googling you, they're looking at your reviews, they're deciding whether or not they want to actually pick up the phone and call you. So there is an interview before the interview. And that's why consumers don't need to have 12 conversations with 12 different agents. They've done the research, they've self-served. And so reviews equal leads, but reviews really equal trust, which equals customers. And that is a big part of the strategy. So I would be encouraging you to go back and look at people you haven't got reviews from, ask them to write a review. If you haven't done so already, just remind them, if you did a great job, they're happy to do that. And then bake it into your SOPs. You should incentivize. I think this is a great tip that one of our clients is executing right now. She incentivizes her transaction management team to get a review. They get a little bonus every time they get a review from a customer. So, salespeople work the comp plan, make it part of the comp plan. Get these reviews. It's a great way to drive your customer acquisition costs down over time. Thanks for sharing that link, Wendy. Okay, so let's see it in action here, Ryan. Talk about some of the things that you've done working not only outside of Curator, but with some of the Curator clients you've worked with.
Yeah, so this is a UK-based case study, and real estate over here is still incredibly high competition in some of the bigger cities, and this is one of them. So when the agent came to me, on the kind of top screenshot there, you see a ton of reds, and you can see, like, as that expands out, that's quite a significant radius where people might be searching from. So reds basically means there's no point in trying. Orange, again, you kind of get in there, but the greens is what we want to see.
Yeah.
So we did everything that we've just covered. We did all of the basic optimizations. We tidied up their citations and we added some more. And then we focused on getting traffic to that GMB profile as quickly as we could.
Mm-hmm.
And within 6 weeks, which is not a great deal of time in the grand scheme of things, we managed to shift a bunch of those reds into greens. And we changed some of the more, so in the bottom right corner here, where the business didn't care about ranking in, we didn't focus on that. We focused on where they wanted to generate leads, where they sold and transacted in the most prominent areas. So this is proof in the pudding. This is, you can't get a bigger piece of proof than this. And if people want to kind of do this scan for themselves, I can share the tool with you now or afterwards.
Yeah, I think well, this is a great tool that everyone should use. So I'd love for you just to share it right now, because I think this is could have a really good gut check moment, which is, are you red or are you green? Because if you're green, great, let's help you obviously continue to sort of own that space. But if you're red, you kind of get a quick sense of, how big of the problem is there?
Yeah. So the tool that we use to do this is called Local Falcon.
Okay.
So localfalcon.com.
Yeah. And then this is an example of my guy, Jason Cassidy. Shout out to Jason Cassidy. If you're not following Jason Cassidy on Instagram, you should follow him, putting out incredible content there. Just an overall great dude, providing advice and guidance to agents all across the country. So follow Jason Cassidy on Instagram. Jason works with Curator. He's part of our Enterprise Attract program. And we've just been doing amazing work with him. We did this for his profile. This is a little bit in maybe back in March and April, we did this case study, but talk about the results for Jason.
Yeah, similar situation for Jason. So Jason had changed address a couple of times and had different agent names over the course of a couple of years. And same situation, we went in, we tidied up the citations that he already had. We added some more on a monthly basis. So over the course of 4 weeks, we were adding new citations.
Yeah.
And we improved what the GMB profile had. So we tidied up the descriptions, we changed the business name, and we also added more products and services. And within 6 weeks, and if anybody is familiar with this market, San Diego is incredibly competitive, and there is almost an agent every couple hundred yards away from each other.
Yeah.
We managed to break that proximity within 6 weeks. And I mean, if we were to compare that to now, like the proximity is much, much further away towards the green.
Yeah. And this is when we think about all the different ways in which you can attract customers, direct mail, inbound marketing, buying leads from Zillow, using Facebook and Google and PPC, signing up for Zillow Flex or a referral fee program like OpCity. Google Business Profile leads are they would fall into the upper echelon of leads, bottom of the funnel, ready to make a decision. And of course, you're going to get a few people who are not ready to move or they're not qualified, but they're high intent leads. And so the same work that we as marketers have to put into building up our top of funnel traffic, turning that traffic into, an email list that we then can market to and send 25 emails to and call 10 times just to get them to say, hey, I'm interested. You can kind of skip all of those steps with Google Business Profile and get the kind of come list me, come help me buy leads. And so the volume is never going to be what you would get from an outbound marketing campaign like a Facebook or a PPC campaign, but the quality can become a cornerstone part of your strategy. It can help you actually incrementally compete against maybe a declining market. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning of today's call, Ryan, which is if you do nothing, if your strategy doesn't change, then your business is going to mirror the market. If your strategy is exactly the same as it was 6 months ago and the market is down 20%, don't be surprised if your business is down 20%. And if you're a high cost structure business where you've got employees, you got overhead, you got personnel, that is not a good position to be in. So what I would be encouraging you to do and think about more creatively is, this is what we think about Curator is, when the market changes, the strategy needs to change. And so this is one of those pillars that we really believe in as a way to get not only high quality leads, do so consistently, build that brand locally, attract the right people, but establish that point of differentiation in your market that helps you actually innovate and grow the business. So Ryan, I'm going to go through real quickly here. This is the Google My Business, Google Business Profile, service optimization checklist. This is like when Facebook makes the change from Facebook to Meta. Everyone keeps calling it Facebook, not Meta. This is kind of like Google Business Profile. It's a bunch of marketing people in a room who have too much time saying we should change this. I'm a marketing guy, so I can make fun of other marketing people. But this is the checklist. Optimize your business name. Choose the right business category. Use the extension GMB everywhere. Optimize your business description, making sure you're including the 750 words you have available to you. Write a description that's actually relevant for the consumer. Make sure you mention the area and the types of homes you sell. Optimize your products and services page. Make sure you're posting regularly, not once in a blue moon, but once every week minimum. Make sure you have keyword rich reviews, mentioning location, mentioning your name. And shout out to Anna for her tip. Make sure if they don't do that, you reply with the location and your name. Geotagging photos and videos. I'm one of those weirdos who uses like Google Images to search for things. I use it all the time for products, and like if I'm looking to buy something, I use Google Images, using that as part of your optimization strategy. And so if you're a curator client who's on today's call, we got a handful of curator clients on today's call who are looking to use the service. We do all of this for you. Everything that's on this screen: Google Business Profile Optimization, business citation building, posting regularly to your Google Business Profile, hyper local lead generation in your area, client review management, local SEO reporting each week. So actually report back on the performance. This is part of the Curator suite of services. We charge $499 per month to manage this for you. What I want you to do, if you're a Curator client, I want you just to email, and Wendy will drop this in the chat, Sarah, SARAH, @curator.com. She can dive into this with you more detail, and make sure we have availability to actually add you to the program. We are scaling the program right now. We've been on a wait list for quite some time, but if you want to get added to that wait list, email Sarah at curator.com, Sarah, SARAH, @curator.com. If you are not a Curator customer, well, we would love to talk. If you're not a Curator customer, Curator is a marketing company that helps the best agents in the country market their businesses in unique ways, provide value to the consumer. We don't believe in chasing, we try to attract. So if you're thinking about changing your strategy, if your business is down right now, or you're looking to innovate, if you're looking to surround yourself with the top agents in the country who currently have $2.1 billion in active listings, and you're looking for new ideas, you're looking to provide more value to the consumer, you're looking to innovate, we want to talk. Email us and you actually can email sales@curator.com. Or if you want to actually check if we have availability, just drop in your zip code in the chat right now. We have exclusivity in the markets that we work within. But if you drop in your zip code and you want to talk about Curator, all the services that we offer, all the solutions that we offer, you can drop in your zip code, and our sales team could reach out to you directly to see if we would be a good fit. I think at the end of the day, and I'll speak sort of broadly about Curator, and we'll wrap up here, Ryan. At the end of the day, we are looking to work with agents who want to grow their businesses. We have no interest in working with agents who are just trying to maintain. We are looking for innovators. We're looking for creators. We're looking for disruptors. Ken Bozak, who's on today's call, I mentioned earlier, he's a Curator client. Jason Cassidy, he's a Curator client. Brad McCullum, he's a Curator client. We try to work with the best agents in this industry because we believe that if we share these ideas, we provide the services, the solutions, right? Make it easier for people to execute, your businesses are going to grow. So if you want to actually Google Curator, look at our reviews. We rank pretty high when you look at our GMB profile. We're really proud of the work that we do, and we believe that we're really helping our clients thrive through this sort of changing market. So Ryan, enough about Curator. And again, if you want to learn more about Curator, just drop your zip code in the chat. What's up, Joe? Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Donnie. Okay, Ryan, where can people connect with you online? I think everyone here, if you guys want to give a shout out to Ryan, he's fighting off COVID right now. He showed up and he did his job. We appreciate you, Ryan. Absolutely A+ content. Every time that we do this, I learn something new. So if you could tell us where people can connect with you online, because I'm sure many people here are going to want to stay connected to you after today's call.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I do apologize if I sound odd. The British accent is bad at the best of times. But if you want to, connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. So Twitter is search for Ryan, and LinkedIn is just my name. So Ryan Durrani, and you should be able to find me pretty easily, hopefully. Or you can visit me at ryandurrani.com.
Very cool. Yeah. Ryan knows this because I mention it every time. I am so jealous, and I have so much envy over how many people follow him on Twitter, because Twitter is that guilty pleasure of mine. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @Mackett on Twitter, and also on Instagram. But this has been great, Ryan. Everyone who tuned in today, Our goal at the beginning of this call was to provide value, was to give you some information to help your businesses. We believe that the market is shifting. The strategy needs to shift as well. Hopefully you took tons of notes. We're excited to see you guys go out there and execute. If you want to learn more about this program, if you're a Curator client, reach out to Sarah@Curator.com. If you are interested in hiring the best marketing company in this space and you're looking to innovate in your business, reach out to us at sales@Curator.com. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. We hope you have a wonderful week.